The crackling and thunder of naval artillery sharply pierced the foggy morning over the French port city of Lot, which was under attack on August 18, 1944. At that moment, German officers, accustomed to familiar tactics and predictable situations, suddenly felt their confidence beginning to crumble. Their radio stations, which usually served as the link of command, were suddenly engulfed in chaos. A wave of intercepted signals and phantom transmissions, creating the sensation of a stormy whirlwind in the ether. In this morning gloom and haze enveloping the coast, strange figures began to appear. It seemed as if invisible forces were materializing before their eyes as ghosts, mysterious, indistinct silhouettes that seemed to emerge from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. Reflective spheres, resembling metallic mirrors, cast bright gleams and created the illusion of moving shadows of ghost ships, seemingly floating over the horizon and reflected on the metallic surfaces of radars. Explosions, shattering the silence, intensified the sense of chaos. The roar, the shattering glass, and vibrations shaking the port, giving the impression that the very earth was trembling beneath their feet. Meanwhile, old naval veterans operating coastal guns tried to focus, shifting their weapons from one target to another. But all they could see through the fog and haze were mere ghosts, elusive and ephemeral, like shadows slipping across the horizon. Orders and counter-orders, bouncing off the walls of command posts, continued to ripple through the chain of German command, creating confusion and disorder. Some units, to defend the vital port, rushed into the mountains, hoping to repel an attack that did not exist. It was an illusion, cleverly devised by the Allies. Others, conversely, dug in along the coast, preparing for a naval invasion that seemed to be imminent from all sides at once, creating an atmosphere of chaos and unpredictability on that fateful morning. The defenders of Lot found themselves unwitting participants in one of the boldest and most cunning military deceptions carried out in the Mediterranean theater of operations. Everything was happening in the early hours of August 18, when Allied forces were already preparing for a daring and risky assault on the French port city of Lot. This was part of a large-scale operation codenamed Dragon, aimed at destabilizing the German defenses and opening a second front in France. In this complex plan, the Allied command decided to involve Captain John de Bouley, known for his bravery and strategic skill, renowned for his daring and sometimes audacious maneuvers. Bouley commanded a small but very powerful strike group, which included the destroyer Endicott, a formidable Glebs-class vessel armed with heavy 5-inch dual-purpose guns. Followed by this destroyer were 17 patrol torpedo boats, also known as slick torpedo boats, armed for close-range combat. Additionally, the group included 2 British artillery cutters, Insecticide, commanded by Agent Scarab, and HMS Appius, equipped with powerful 6-inch guns intended for delivering serious destruction. All these ships headed toward the French coast of Lot to divert German forces from key landings at Cavaleres-Sous, Saint-Tropez, and San Raffaele. These landings were later to become the main points for a larger Allied offensive, and ultimately for capturing these strategically important port towns. Overall, it was expected that this clever maneuver would confuse the German forces, leaving them in complete disarray and unable to determine whether it was a real threat or just a cunning enemy trick. For a long time, until the day drew to a close, the Allies successfully achieved their strategic goal, leaving the German command in a state of complete uncertainty and disorientation. At the same time, further south, off the coast of an area called Lot, a new large-scale invasion was about to begin, adding tension and anxiety to the situation. The entire squadron of Allied ships lined up into strict battle formations, ready for combat. An ominous calm hung over the city, which seemed more unsettling than the noise and roar of battle. The water, calm and dark, was only disturbed by the steady hum of engines, slowly but confidently moving forward under the faint morning light barely breaking through the fog. On each vessel, crews actively prepared for battle, awaiting the precise signal to unleash fierce fire upon the German defensive positions located in the Lot area. This dawn battle, when the first rays of the sun already touched the horizon, marked the beginning of a decisive confrontation. The Allied forces took positions near the area called Leota, prepared for combat. The roar of engines and the sound of waves blended into one powerful noise as the ships formed into a battle line. Captain Buckley, commander of the torpedo boats, led his vessels and British gunboats forward to ensure the assault. Meanwhile, a larger ship, the USS Endicott, remained at the rear to hold the line and command the retreat. In the silence and dawn light, the ships moved toward the port, their sleek, dark silhouettes contrasting with the soft glow of sunrise. Their engines ran quietly at minimal power to maintain stealth and avoid detection. In the harbor, a solitary German merchant steamer stood still, calm and motionless, as if a silent victim awaiting its fate. Suddenly, like a flash, the Allied ships unleashed a sudden and powerful barrage of defensive fire. Guns and machine guns rang out across the harbor, targeting the large German steamer. Part 3 of 7. Moments later, the ship caught fire, listed to one side, and began to sink, shrouded in clouds of smoke and flames. At exactly 5:45 a.m., Commander Oakley gave the order to cease fire. After that, USS Endicott surged forward, following the torpedo boats as they headed south. At the same time, the British gunboats HMS Aphis and HMS Scarab began to withdraw, releasing thick clouds of smoke from their funnels that rapidly spread across the water surface. This smoke served as a reliable shield, concealing the ship's movements and hindering any potential counterattacks from the shore. The dense, impenetrable smoke curtain allowed the strike group to quickly and unobstructedly retreat into the approaching night. The swift and precise Allied attack completely neutralized all German merchant raiders that could have impeded the upcoming invasion of southern France. Thus, a significant threat was eliminated. Maritime routes were secured, and conditions were created for a successful landing operation. However, the joy of the first victory was short-lived. Suddenly, Captain Buckley's radio crackled, and an alarm signal appeared on the airwaves, reporting a new danger. Soon, a tense voice announced that a small American rescue vessel, patrolling near the British gunboats, had come under attack. Anxiety swept through the crew, and Captain Bullock, upon hearing the message, tensed up, trying to grasp all the details despite transmission disruptions. Soon, 2 German vessels appeared on the horizon, causing concern. One of them was a former Italian corvette. In the distant 19th century, during an era when naval battles were just beginning to take on their modern characteristics, there were guns whose names in history became forever linked to that time. Their caliber was only 6 inches, and these artillery pieces were considered relics of a bygone era. They were built at the end of the 19th century, and their design and power were no longer as impressive compared to modern examples. Nevertheless, these guns seemed to slowly crawl through the air like ancient knightly shields, while more modern German shells flew with incredible speed and accuracy, like lightning. These 6-inch guns could only move slowly and awkwardly across the sea surface. Their movements appeared frozen in time, but despite their outdated nature, the fighting spirit of the British crews remained high. They fought with full courage and resilience, refusing to surrender to the enemy's onslaught. Their artillerymen, armed with antique guns, continuously loaded shell after shell, following an age-old military tradition. They carefully and with concentration sent projectiles in an arc toward the approaching German ships, aiming to hit their targets. Dull explosions, flashes, and clouds of smoke echoed over the water, indicating that the battle was in full swing. But it was clear that their slow and relatively weak armament could not compare in power and speed to the German guns, which flew with incredible range and accuracy. At that moment, UJ-682, a German ship, fired a deafening 100mm shell. It whistled through the air like a sinister herald and rapidly headed toward the British cutters. One of these shells landed very close to the gunboat HMS Scarab. The explosion was powerful and destructive. It shook the vessel, splashing salty water across the deck. It was an impressive and simultaneously dangerous sight, requiring the crew's instant reaction. The crew barely managed to keep their balance, and at that moment, the 88mm gun, known as Nimita Allah, opened fire. Precise and brutal shells whistled through the air. One exploded very close to the bow of the ship, Aphis, sending a ringing through the armor and causing the crew to fall to the deck, shielding themselves from shrapnel and impacts. The situation was becoming increasingly desperate. British gunners continued to fire, knowing that each shot was a chance for salvation, however small. They understood they could not risk a direct hit, as their antiquated guns were clearly outdated and could not compare to the excellent German weaponry. which flew faster and more accurately. The Allies could not afford to lose any of these gunboats, as they were crucial for executing special missions. These ships were needed for diversionary maneuvers to throw German raiders off balance. If these enemy ships broke through and returned to the port of Marseille, they could disrupt the movement of Allied vessels transporting cargo and supplies necessary for the invasion of France. Commander Bully ordered an urgent retreat. Britain continued to fire, launching a few more shells before reducing speed and shutting down the engines. These engines, roaring and crackling, tried to carry the ships away from the enemy fire. UJ-682 and Nimita Allah continued to pursue the enemy, not allowing them to escape unpunished. The 100mm gun of the former battleship with precision. The crew of the Otta destroyer quickly got to their feet to prepare their guns for battle. However, inside each of them, a Trevozhnia and burdensome thought prevailed. Out of all 5-inch guns on board, only one remained operational. The other guns were jammed, stuck in place due to overheated breech blocks, which had previously been damaged and blocked as a result of constant bombings of the shoreline. These damages and overheating created insurmountable obstacles in their path, and the crew understood that most of their armament today could not help in combat. Nevertheless, Balkley, the ship's commander, did not allow these difficulties to stop his determination. He knew that every second counted in battle, and therefore, despite the malfunctions, he ordered to open fire from the only operational gun to repel the enemy. Atta fired from inside his hull, and his deep, thunderous salvos echoed across the foggy sea surface at a distance of about 1,500 yards. These shots, reverberating through the thick maritime darkness, created the sensation that the very earth was trembling beneath their power. The German enemies, noticing the new threat, quickly reoriented and shifted their fire from the British gunboats to the shells approaching from the destroyer Endicott's guns and machine guns. At the moment the ship began its dangerous maneuver, it was surrounded by powerful jets of water sprayed into the air, resembling giant water columns rising upward. The destroyer zigzagged through the waves, slicing through the raging gusts of wind and breaking the waves against its hull, while reducing the distance to the enemy to get closer to the larger German vessels. Despite this, German fire gradually intensified. One of the shells hit the crew, and Markey, one of the sailors, was wounded. The German ships, particularly the yacht Nimata Allah, received 2 confirmed hits in the engine room. As a result, dense black smoke billowed from that compartment, and the ship began to lose speed, like a snake slowly crawling, having lost part of its strength. Everyone except the crew continued firing with determination and resilience, ready to respond to every enemy shot. Meanwhile, 2 torpedo boats, acting in concert, surged forward to support Endicott, which was rushing through the waves toward the larger and more dangerous German ships. Both boats launched 1 torpedo each directly at the enemy vessel. This series of torpedoes was precise and dangerous, with trajectories carefully calculated. However, as the boats approached, German machine gunners took aim, and their fire became accurate and fierce. Their bullets rang out across the decks, as if shattering the silence of the night, and the torpedo boats were forced to retreat, dodging a barrage of fire. As a result, they left Endicott alone against the German onslaught. The ship's crew vigorously tried to revive the jammed guns. They carefully cooled them to prevent re-overheating and jamming. One by one, the guns returned to service, but the crew acted very cautiously to avoid new malfunctions. Their fear of repeated jams forced them to fire carefully, not revealing the full arsenal in order to preserve the weapon's combat readiness. At that moment, the German ship Antelope responded to the attack with 2 torpedoes, which sharply cut through the water and headed toward Endicott. Commander Balkley ordered a sharp turn. The destroyer suddenly veered, barely managing to dodge both torpedoes, which sped past in the darkness without hitting Endicott. The ship had exhausted its combat supplies. She unleashed everything she had at her disposal: 5-inch shells, 20mm and 40mm volleys. And all of it converged on the German Antelope with a powerful stream of firepower as the battle reached its peak. This moment became the culmination of a fierce duel in which every weapon and every shot played its part. While the fight continued, the ship continued to sustain damage. Her hull was breached, and water began to seep into the vessel, causing it to list rapidly to one side. It was visible to the naked eye. The ship was beginning to sink. The German yacht involved in the battle also suffered heavy losses. It started to submerge, and the crew, in panic, tried to abandon the ship to escape. Cold, clear water poured out, flooding the decks and holds, accompanied by blazing smoke and tongues of flame, licking the smokescreen above the Antelope's deck. The flames, swirling and flickering, created a terrifying spectacle, simultaneously revealing how quickly the ship was succumbing to the enemy's assault. At this moment, Endicott, acting with maximum decisiveness, intensified the attack with a final maneuver, changing position to deliver the last blow. In response, the American destroyer opened fire with all its available guns, sending cascades of shells directly at the bow of the Antelope, causing destruction to her hull. Explosions rocked the ship from within, shells penetrated deeper, and the German corvette began to break apart as if under the force of destructive power. The crew of the German vessel had no choice but to abandon ship and hurriedly leave it, jumping overboard to escape. For nearly an hour, the ship was engulfed in flames, and her wreckage steadily sank beneath the waves of the Mediterranean Sea. Meanwhile, USS Endicott and a small rescue boat continued the fight at very close range with the German corvette designated UJ-682, as well as with the armed yacht Nimala. Gunfire flashes illuminated the fog-shrouded waters, creating a bright and chaotic spectacle as both sides fought fiercely. Shells exploded in the air, and metal parts clanged with each hit, creating a sense of real chaos and tension. Ultimately, American fire proved relentless and unwavering. It slowly but inexorably reached its targets, and both enemies, the corvette and the yacht, began to sink. Their hulls slipped beneath the water's surface, and flames flickered on the fog's surface, creating the illusion of fire spreading across the waves. The enemies were defeated. Endicott paused for a moment, carefully inspecting the smoking wreckage of the German ships. The commander ordered a ceasefire, and the surviving Allied boats, having regrouped, began to retreat slowly, their engines humming as they headed back through the dispersing fog. This was a victory achieved against all odds. The battle was marked by chaos, but it was brief and very decisive. It was completed precisely at 7:17 a.m. The Endicott superstructure was covered with scars from intense machine gun fire and shrapnel from shells, but the ship itself remained fully operational. The enemy was completely destroyed, and the threat they posed was neutralized. At this time, the Americans began rescuing the surviving Germans, hoping to find information among them about other possible enemy vessels in the area. The German casualties remained unknown,